Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You've just seen my fellow colleague Arnold from Budapest Business School, Budapest, Hungary. And my name is Botond Kálmán. I am from Eötvös Loránd University, also from Budapest, Hungary. I would like to introduce you our other topic, the gender differences of competitive attitude from childhood to adulthood, where we have analyzed the gender differences along competition. The analysis is based on a survey executed in 2020. However, it was not a genuine longitudinal data collection. Respondents have been asked to answer questions about their about their personality and competition-related attitude regarding not only their present circumstances, but also their childhood and adolescence. The primary objective of this study was to demonstrate the difference between men and women in their personality and competitive attitude, and in addition to validate that both genders have a different motivation for competition with distinctive competitive habits in their workplaces. To find this answer, a structural equation model called SEM-model has been set up for respectively women and men. These models have been put together based on the sections of the questionnaire. And here you can see our hypotheses, which were primarily beginning quite easily. In hypothesis 1, we assumed that personality of childhood had a significant impact on the personality of adolescence, as far as you can see on the slide. I don't know whether you can see my cursor moving the mouse or not. But on the second hypothesis, that the green line, you can see the personality of childhood was assumed to have a significant correlation with the competitive attitude of childhood subsequently. And hypothesis 3 just assumed that adolescent and childhood personality had a significant influence on the competitive attitude and competitive personality of the present. So we would like to talk a little bit about the structural equation model. So this is a combination of 6 aggregations, as far as we can call them. So personality in childhood, personality in adolescence, competitive attitude in childhood and adolescence, and the present personality and attitude, which was feasible throughout the fact that this was based on a questionnaire wholly that was part of a previous paper and examination. So this is just not mentioned in our paper. These results are already have been obtained and used for the creation of this structural equation model. And the personality scales are also described on the right-hand side of the slide. And these relate to the personality type of aggregations. Aggregation, this is the positive personality type of questions aggregated into each other, the competitiveness related questions, the individual player related questions, team player, extroversion, and failure management were analyzed regarding these question aggregations. And the further scales, like the ones mentioned regarding competitive attitude and the present personality and attitude, these were based on averages. These were not factor-based, these were average-based, and these are partly related to competitive attitude in the past, competitive personality in the present, and competitive attitude in the present. So the reliability of our previously asked questions were very much related to this factor analysis in case of the personality type of questions. And these were represented by the Cronbach alphas. The higher the Cronbach alpha is, the higher the explanatory value of the whole situation analysis can be considered to be. And these are partly childhood and partly adolescence-related factor analyses. As regards the attitude, the adolescent type of questions and the presence attitude and personality type of questions, we use as far as already mentioned, the averages. And these scales are mentioned, for example, below. The dimensions of maximalism, who do you compete with in your workplace, motivators of competition and impact on the individual. These are parts of the presence personality, and attitude is not mentioned on this slide. Here you can see again the personality type of aggregation components. And now I would like to just reflect on the model fit statistics. These model fits are very important because these just give a bird's eye view highlight on how strong these models actually are. So this is quite strong because NFI, RFI, and so on, except for RMC, show high values, which is a very, very, very strong model fit illustrated here. And the RMC are very low values. So this is also a justification of the strong model fits. And in case of males, there is a bit lagging behind the females, and this is due to the fact that almost less than half of the female sample size was feasible to males. So as regards the female and male separate SEM models, these are just undescribable in these ways. So there was a simplification later on, subsequently on the next slide, but I just wanted to highlight them, that was the type of construction that we could achieve. So through the IBM SPSS AMOS program, where there were the implementations from previous factor analysis typed into the program, and the program just exported these models from itself. We must admit that there were subsequent modifications during the course of this model description. So here you can see the different parts already having been mentioned in our conversation, the different aggregates, and these aggregates are from the different questions collected. But now there is just a simplification of the model, which is from the same questions as described previously, and we should highlight a few connections that can be also analyzed here, a bit more colorful depiction. And there is a distinction between direct effects and indirect effects, and the indirect effects are shown with the corrugated, with the dotted lines, and the thorough lines are the direct effects, and these are the ones that come from directly the AMOS model, and the indirect effects are just some speculations, and also from AMOS tables, and where from we can derive the indirect, and we can conclude. And we can see that this is much more complicated than our previous hypothesis. So first of all, let's see the personality in childhood will determine the personality in adolescence and competitive attitude of childhood. You can follow it in the slide. On the upper left hand side corner, you can see personality of childhood. And from there, you can see a yellow line, and you can see a red line downwards and to the right. And these are the direct connections that have been established throughout our analysis. And competitive attitude of adolescence will be determined by competitive attitude of childhood. So competitive attitude of childhood, and also personality of adolescence through direct connections. These also have been established. Just one more thing, competitive personality of present, I mean adulthood, because adulthood now means the present situation, of course, is coming directly from personality and competitive attitude of adolescence. You can see it on the blue line, on the dark blue line, and indirectly from personality of childhood and adolescence. You can see the corrugated lines, and competitive attitude of present is determined by competitive personality of the present and competitive attitude of adolescence, and indirectly from competitive attitude of childhood, as you can see. And as opposed to our initial hypothesis, personality of childhood only influences indirectly and there without any direct correlation, the competitive attitude of the present. So now these were our conclusions. Just a few differences among the genders. You can see it's much more demonstrative than the previous slide, maybe, because we both examined females and males, and now we can derive the conclusions. And these conclusions are, in case of competitive attitude in childhood, the components were impact, love, and frequency. The love means that the affection for competition, the preference for competition, how much strong it was. In case of females, the impact was mostly determined by being an individual player or not during the childhood in a negative way, while in case of men, the positive personality in a positive way and failure management also in a how can we handle our failures in a positive way are the most determining factors. In case of affection for competition, in case of females, a negative connection was established through team player personality. It was the most determining factor. And in case of men, it was failure management in a positive way, and in an indirect effect through the impact of competition, the positive personality. And in case of frequency, in case of women, the team player personality in a negative way, and in case of men, the individual player personality in a positive way, and failure management through an indirect effect through the affection for competition. You can also see competitive attitude in adolescence had this, similar components, and there were very big differences among them. Just to name a few, in case of impact, positive personality was determining in case of women, and competitiveness was in case of men. So there were differences among the genders, and these can be concluded through several ways, but these are further on analyzed in this current status of the research, and we will conclude our further results in the next paper, maybe. In case of the affection for competition, childhood character was mostly determining when talking about women, and childhood character attributes were much more greater in case of men, as far as you can see. And what determined the frequency of the competition was mostly describable in case of women by team player personality and competitive personality, and positive personality in case of men, and the frequency in childhood. Maximalism, motivators, individual impact, evaluation of competition among colleagues were the aggregations of the present, or how to say, adulthood competitive personality. What refers to women, maximalism was influenced by positive personality in a positive manner, while in case of men, team player personality was mostly determinant, and the childhood impact of competition and the frequency of competition during the adulthood. And the motivators in case of females were determined by childhood motivation in case of both genders, and adolescent motivation in case of both genders. But there was also another one in case of women, the present organizational competition. And positive personality was characteristic to women, and childhood attributes and adolescent attributes in case of men when talking about the effects on the individual impact of competition during adulthood. The evaluation of competition among colleagues was mostly decided by positive impact of competition in case of women, and the maximalism and motivations as part of the adulthood personality in case of men in a positive way. And finally, the competitive attitude in the present adulthood had also different determinants, which can also be analyzed in the SEM-model, but that was a more bird's eye view approach, and here are the details that are more followable maybe to the audience as well. In case of women, direct effects of childhood and adulthood was characteristic to the effects of competition with co-workers in case of women, and in case of men it was maximalism mostly. Who do you compete with was the question. that was raised to the sample size. And in case of women, it was characterized by the love of competition, affection for competition as the biggest determinant, and the present and not the adolescent competition love feeling was the most characteristic to men. And do you enjoy workplace competition was another question, which was primarily determined in case of women by maximalism, motivators, and positive personality in adolescence. And in case of men, it was positive personality, frequency of childhood competitions, present impact of competition, and competitive personality in adulthood. So you can see there are differences. And what can we do with these differences? I think we can, and we strongly believe that these verified hypotheses, if they are detected in early personality under the 18 years of age, these can have significant effect on adulthood motivation. And if these motivations are traceable, and we really consider our time on finding them, then we can help children build their careers. We can make good impact on the HR activity of different multinational companies. How to select the appropriate, the prompt employee for the given position. So impact has it has a strong impact on the labor force market. The practical implementations have already been covered in our speech, and now I would just like to thank you for your attention and the opportunity to share with you our findings. Maybe we can summarize that our biggest result was that the childhood personality has a significant role in adolescent personality, but childhood attitude has no effect on adolescent attitude, and adolescent attitude mostly determined by the adolescent personality. So thank you very much, and let's move to the next presenter.